This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started here today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. If you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Be very appreciated. We're helpful to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. Also, if you're on social media, which I imagine a lot of you are, we are also on social media, so you can reach out to us there. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. Because obviously, most of us can't really leave our house too tough. Depending on what state you're in, but different states have different rules. But more or less, almost everyone's on some sort of curfew to a degree. So, and then obviously a lot of people are working from home, or maybe they're not working, depending on what their job is. So, have a lot of free time on our hands, so we can use that to discuss the various things happening in the sports world. And one of those big things today was the Rams deciding that apparently they're just going to blow their team up. Well, partly, obviously. They didn't trade Aaron Donald or anything like that. But they did release Todd Gurley, which was a shock just because they were forced to release him, because obviously you think with players that, I understand he has the whole, I think it was arthritis in his knees or whatever. It wasn't really that good last year compared to where he was in previous years, and he's on a big contract. So I could see why he wasn't traded. But normally, at least, you could think you could get something for a guy like that. But apparently, whatever the Rams were being offered back, they could. They didn't. Whatever they were being offered back in a trade package, they did not like. So then they decided to just release him, and that's a big deal because obviously, he was a legitimate MVP candidate. I mean, mildly legitimate at least, in terms of he could have gotten votes. He wasn't ever going to win, but he could have gotten votes back in that 2017 season. Was part of the turnaround for the Rams in McVay's first season there. He obviously got paid big money, I believe it was before the 2018 season. And then unfortunately for him, it's been all kind of downhill. And his story could be a cautionary tale for why people feel like you shouldn't pay running backs. And I mean, I'm not exactly in that camp. I usually believe that if a player is good, you pay them. But there are more instances of running backs breaking down earlier, especially after a big contract, than there are at most other positions. I feel like, I feel pretty confident saying that. So yeah, it's just there's very few teams that are willing to give running backs big contracts, and very rarely does it yield the type of return on investment that you would hope for. Yes, he's just another example of that. Like I said, he agreed to a 4-year, $57.5 million extension in July of 2018. The deal paid him a $21 million signing bonus, but to keep his 2018-2019 cap numbers low, the team inserted a series of guarantees for base salaries and roster bonuses in year 3 of the contract. His cap hit was 7.2 and 9.2 in the last 2 years, respectively. And it was set to double and to nearly double, I should say, and spiked to $17.3 million this offseason. By keeping him on the roster in 2019, the Rams triggered a $7.5 million roster bonus for the 2020 season. It already paid that bonus, but obviously Well, again, up to the more important part of paying him the big money. And they had until 4 p.m. When you guys are hearing this, it'll be Friday, but 4 p.m. on Thursday to decide what to do with him. And if they didn't trade him or cut him by 4 p.m., his 5.5 base salary for 2020 and his $5.5 million, roster bonus for 2021 would both become fully guaranteed, and it would have been on the hook for a $17.2 million cap hit. It would have owed him at least $5 million in 2021, regardless of what happened. Instead, the Rams will owe $20 million in dead money on their cap for Todd Gurley, basically. And the crazy part is he's only 25. I think he's turning 26 at some point this offseason, but he's only 25 right now. They would designate him as a post-July release and which will then spread over 2 years, $11.8 million in 2020 and $8.4 in 2021. But this is a big amount of dead money for any team to be willing to take, especially for, like I said, a guy who had the talent level of Gurley at one point in his career. And so, yeah, the Rams are just kind of in like this weird spot where they're still technically trying to compete. Like, they're not rebuilding because they're paying Aaron Donald big money. They're paying Jared Goff, which is unfortunate for them, big money, I believe. Let me go look up his situation because I know his cap situation was even worse than Todd Gurley's situation. So yeah, so Jared Goff. This is from this Spot Rack Twitter account, which is like this does a lot of deals with a lot of salary cap stuff. So Jared Goff. It's a big day for Rams quarterback Jared Goff, who will have his $21 million roster bonus paid, while another $43 million of future salary and bonuses become fully guaranteed. He now holds a whopping $94 million dead cap figure for 2020. And obviously they're not going to release him. They never really were. But just to have that big of a dead cap hit for one player is kind of crazy when you think about it. And then especially when you look at a player like Jared Goff, who definitely took a step back this past season. Now you're even more fearful because it's like, all right, if he does it again this year, then you might need to figure out a way to get rid of him. But it doesn't, like, counting him doesn't really sound like an option because, again, hold on, let me look up his contract. Just because, cutting him doesn't really seem that feasible because, again, he just signed his extension not that long ago and he's getting paid a lot of money. So 2020, 2021, his dead cap would be $58 million. So the most reasonable one would be 2023 because there's only $5 million in dead cap, but that's again in 3 seasons. So by then, if you're trying to get rid of Jared Goff, you're kind of already in bad shape. So yeah, the Rams are, like I said, the Rams are in this weird spot now where again they're trying to compete. And mind you, this is before we even get to them having to extend Jalen Ramsey at some point. Not exactly sure when it's going to happen, but he's going into the 5th year. No extension. Obviously, part of the reason why he got traded to the Rams was because the Jaguars weren't giving, or I guess in negotiation they weren't giving him the kind of deal or kind of offers he wanted. And also that's part of the reason why they traded a bunch of guys recently. They traded Dante Fowler as well. They're considering trading Yannick Ngakoue, who's on the franchise tag at the moment, but it doesn't seem like either side is close on extension. So the Jags are having their own issues. But the Rams, like I said, the Rams are in a weird spot where they're trying to compete still, but they have a lot of guys getting paid a lot of money who aren't as good at their job as their money they're getting paid would indicate. Aaron Donald obviously is worth it, but Jared Goff probably not worth all that dead cap. Again, assuming, unless he has a bounce back year, but even then, to be worth that, you'd have to be basically like Patrick Mahomes, and as we've seen, he's not that, even at his best. They're paying Brandon Cooks a lot of money. I know he was a guy that was potentially on the trade block for them. Because he's been getting, he has a lot of concussions and stuff, so he's been banged up during his time, and I guess this is already his 3rd team, who's on the Saints, then the Patriots, then the Rams. No one seems to be outwardly having an issue with him, but again, when a guy gets moved that often, it is kind of interesting. Yes, and they still got to pay Aaron Donald. Still got to pay Jalen Ramsey, I should say. And then obviously, they just cut Todd Gurley. So, and again, this doesn't even bring up the fact that they don't have any first round picks either this year or next year due to the Jalen Ramsey trade. So, when you're like, all right, when you lose elite level talent, you're like, all right, okay, at least we have the draft to kind of get it back. And obviously, running backs, serviceable running backs, I should say, aren't the hardest position to find in the draft. So you don't necessarily need a first round pick to get that back. But also, like I said, there's still some positions they could use some help at. They could use help at pass rusher outside of Aaron Donald, because again, Dante Fowler, who had 11.5 sacks, I believe, for them last year, is signed with the Falcons. They probably could use. I know Eric Weddle retired, I believe. I think that sounds right. Yeah, I believe he retired, and he was at safety for them last year. Clay Matthews they cut as well. So again, another hole at the linebacker position. The Corey Littleton left to go to the Raiders, I believe. So again, just another hole. And then, like I said, they're kind of capped out, and then they don't have their first round picks. And I believe they only have. I thought I saw someone say, I'd have to double check this, but I thought I saw someone say that they only have 4 picks, not this season, in this draft, but in the 2021 draft. So, like, again, when you're a team that's strapped for cash, you wouldn't be able to use draft picks if they're cheap assets. But now they don't even have the cheap assets to be able to use to try to get some good players. So now, like I said, they're in a worse position just because they kind of are in a situation where they almost are sort of like one bad start away from just having to blow this team up, even though, again, they've already started, but it's completely having to blow the team up. And then, like, I'm saying, like, the guys you want to get out of deals with, like, what are you going to do? You're going to let Jalen Ramsey walk in free agency? That would be absurd. And what are you going to do? You're going to cut Jared Goff? You're going to trade Jared Goff? What's the Rams' plan? And that's kind of the issue, is that their situation is kind of spotty. The situation is kind of spotty. And part of it had to do with them deciding to pay Todd Gurley that big money. At the time, like I said, he was worth it. But again, very few smart football people, these in terms like cap and like front office moves and stuff like that, would tell you that paying a running back a lot of money is worth it. And obviously no one expects a running back at 25 years old, 25, 26, to have arthritis in his knees. Like, that's not a common thing. But at the same time, when you pay a running back big money and then it doesn't work out, it hurts your team, in my opinion, more than it would most other positions. Because at least in theory, they say you sign a big corner and it doesn't work out. All right, you can put him on, like, instead of having him shadow number one, you can hide him a little bit. You can give him safety help. You can put him on the number 2 guy. You can, like, try to finesse ways. Maybe there's a way to get out of the deal early, stuff like that. But normally, a lot of these, I won't say a lot of these, but some of these deals, this one wasn't. But some of these deals may be front loaded, so you got to wait a couple years before you can get out of it. Or when, like, the Rams situation, where this one was more backloaded in terms of the cap hits, and now you're cutting. Now you have a massive dead cap amount that you have to pay for him to not be on your team. And so, yeah, the Rams are definitely a tale of what happens when you play where you try to act as if there's no cap in the sport, and then it kind of backfired. Because they were, like I said, they were paying everybody. They're acquiring this guy, acquiring that guy. They're trading this pick, they're trading that pick. And what has it yielded them? I mean, they went to a Super Bowl, so there is that, but they lost. Their offense had a poor performance in that game, and then this past year they didn't make the playoffs. Now maybe with the new CBA past the 7 teams now, maybe they could make it in. But again, the division's just as good. I mean, is going to be maybe even better than it was last year, because in theory Arizona should be better. San Francisco didn't get that much worse, though we'll see what losing DeForest Buckner does to them. Seattle has Russell Wilson, so that alone gives you at least 8 or 9 wins if he's healthy. So I'm saying, like, their division's already tough, and it's only going to get tougher. And now they're in a spot where they're literally, like I said, one average to bad season away from just having to blow the whole thing up and start from scratch, and they're doing it without a first-round pick in 2021. So, yeah. Like I said, going all in, being aggressive, all that stuff sounds good in theory, but when it does, well, it sounds good if it works out, I should say. When it doesn't work out, then you're stuck like the Rams and you're cutting your 25, 26-year-old running back. Not even 2 full years after you just gave him a massive extension. So yeah, the Rams were in a tough spot before today, and obviously the spot did not get any tougher after today. So it is what it is for them, but we will see how they bounce back from this because, like I said, they still have a good amount of talent and top-end talent on their team, but like I'm saying, when you're paying a lot of guys, well, you're paying few guys a lot of money, it's kind of hard to fill out the roster. It's kind of hard to fill out the rest of your roster with adequate levels of talent. So we'll see what happens, and also I guess we'll kind of see where Todd Gurley goes. I know there was a couple teams that were interested. I believe it was the Falcons and Dolphins were the teams most interested, but then also the Dolphins just signed Jordan Howard, so I don't know if you need Jordan Howard and Todd Gurley. That seems kind of pointless. Though I guess they could spell each other. I don't know. And I know the Falcons just cut Devontae Freeman, so maybe they could use him. But again, at this point in his career, probably Gurley isn't getting more than 10, 15 carries a game, so he can't be your bell cow guy. So maybe it could work with Miami just because they have another guy in Jordan Howard that can get 10 carries a game. I'm not sure with Atlanta. I know they have Ito Smith, but I don't know if they believe in Ito Smith that much to be able to just be willing to give have believe in him enough to have Todd Gurley be his number 2. I don't know if we're at that point yet. But also I know another team that maybe be looking at him would be a team like the Bucks. Obviously could use a running back, just probably another running back, because again, you have Ronald Jones, who isn't a bad running back, but obviously is not a bell cow or by any stretch of the imagination at this point in time. Obviously, it's possible that he could become one, but at this point in time, that's not where he's at. So maybe they could use a nice 1-2 punch between him and Gurley, and obviously that allows them to both be able, Gurley to be able, again, not to have to be the bell cow, get 20, 25 carries, because that's probably not where he's at this point. So that'd be interesting to see. Since he's cut, he's free, so he's willing to make a choice. But if he's obviously he's getting paid a lot of money, so he's already got paid a lot of money, so it is what it is. But if he's willing to take like a shorter term deal, then maybe he won't be out of a job for that long. But yeah, Rams, cautionary tale: this is what happens when you go all in and your hand busts. Basically, this is what happens. Going all in is great in theory, but when it doesn't work out, you end up like the Rams. So we'll see if they're able to bounce back this season, but obviously right now things aren't looking great. But there's a team that things are looking great for, at least in terms of helping their secondary, and that is the Eagles. They traded for a big-time corner in the league, so we'll talk about who that is, and kind of how he exited his last team, because it was a little tenuous, I think, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but it wasn't exactly the greatest of splits, let's put it that way. So we'll talk about all that stuff right after the break, so stay tuned.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
are back with the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, the Eagles have finally found themselves a NFL caliber corner, you could say, because I mean, some of the guys that they've trotted out over the years been lackluster, to say the least. At least, again, from NFL standards, these guys are better than I ever could be at the position. But again, compared to other NFL players around the league, less than ideal. But, like I said, they don't have to worry about that, at least on one side of the field anymore, as they were able to pry, if you will, a Darius Slay from the Lions. They traded him for a third and a fifth, I believe, because I know they had 2 thirds, because they had a regular third and like a compensatory third from the Nick Foles signing from the Jacksonville, which is kind of funny now in hindsight, because again, he's not on Jacksonville anymore. And then I think they traded, I know they had a couple fifths, so then they were able to offload those 2, and then obviously they had to pay the man, so because that was a part of this thing, was that he wanted to get paid, and that's what the Lions were not willing to do, among some other issues that he may have had with them, which we will talk about in a second. But after the trade was agreed to, they were able to reach an agreement for a 3-year, $50 million extension that included $30 million guaranteed, according to Adam Schefter and like a couple other reported out there. So, like I said, they set the pony up a little bit of money. The average, which is about 16.7, is slightly more than Byron Jones got. Obviously, less years, but slightly more than Byron Jones got. And in fairness, Jones is a little bit younger than Darius Slay is. So then that part of it kind of makes some sense, to a degree at least. But also, they got this deal done before guys like Jalen Ramsey, and for guys like Marshawn Lattimore. Who else? I'm trying to think. There's some other corners that could be in the works for new deals. Oh, Marlon Humphrey, another guy. So yeah, there's a few corners that will be getting extensions, you would think, soon. Whether it's like right now, obviously, because it doesn't really need to get done right now, or sometime during the summer, or even before the season. Assuming there's a season, I pray there's a season still. We can. Hopefully this coronavirus stuff will be over by then. But I digress. But yes, so then it's the highest paid in the league right now in terms of like average value. I don't know exactly what the cap hits are, but again, that as with most of these things, it's only the highest because it's the most recent one. As soon as, like I said, Ramsey or Marshawn Lattimore or Marlon Humphrey, or maybe even another corner, gets an extension, they'll probably be above what Slay got, and then, like I said, it'll just all balance out. So then, by the time the season even starts, he may drop down from like the highest, like the second, third, or like fourth highest paid corner in the league. So, like I said, all these things are kind of fluid with that. But like I said, he's a guy that the Eagles desperately needed, because, like I said, they've had cornerback issues throughout. I mean, for like a while, honestly. I think their last like really very good corner they had was Asante Samuel, which is back. That was back early 2010s, like the Mike Vick years with Andy Reid still. Even I think a little bit before then, but he was then. And then since he kind of left, they had they tried to bring in Nnamdi Asomugha, that didn't work. They tried to bring in Byron Maxwell, that didn't work. They had Brandon Boykin, who was hot for like a year, and then he had some injury issues, and then they traded him, and then he was out the league not long after that, which is unfortunate for him, because he was, I think the first year Chip Kelly made the playoffs, I believe he had something like 6 picks or something super random. Let me check that, because I believe it was something random like that. So yeah, he had, man, where are the stats, people? Where are the stats? So yeah, found it. So he was only in the league from 2012 to 2015. And in 2013, like I said, at second year in the league, he had 6 interceptions. And then that was literally it. He had 8 interceptions total for his career. So 75% of them came in that one season. So again, not exactly a complete shutdown corner, and obviously picks on everything. But at the same time, he had 17 pass defense during that season, a pick 6. So yeah, he had a very solid year that year. But obviously that was really it for him. And then, like I said, since then, who else have they tried? They've had Jalen Mills, who they've now moved to safety because he played safety a little bit at LSU, but that's kind of where, for my money, obviously I don't do this for a living, but if I were a defensive coach, that's probably where I would play him because he doesn't have the speed to hang with people or the quickness to hang with people on the outside, but he can cover bigger, slower receivers, not exactly like a DK Metcalf type, but bigger, slower receivers and tight ends. I know he matched up with Gronk a little bit in the Super Bowl and was successful to a degree before Gronk went off in the second half. That was mainly on other guys. Corey Graham, Ronald Darby, stuff like that, people like that. But yeah, so he's matched up better, and he's a good tackler, solid around the line of scrimmage. So again, moving him to safety to fill that Malcolm Jenkins role makes sense. But again, how often is it that a guy that you start at corner for 4 years comes back to the same team and changes position in the 5 years? The 5th year of his career. That seems very odd. But it is what it is. So you had him try to trade for Ronald Darby. He was on and off the field due to injuries. Was inconsistent when he did play. Thought they had something to Sidney Jones. He was going to go first round before he tore his Achilles at a pro day. Hasn't really completely bounced back from that. He's shown glimpses of being not exactly a shutdown corner, but at least being a solid corner. And then he's had bouts with hamstring injuries, and then also just some confidence issues. So he hasn't really lived up to it. Had some other guys, like I said, but they haven't really had that number one shutdown guy in a long time. And obviously, Slay brings that to them, something that they obviously need, and that helps them out a great deal because they play with Jim Schwartz, and they play a lot of single high man coverage on the outside, kind of just your guy, and the very little safety help is given on that defense. So you need a guy that can match up with a guy one-on-one. That's kind of what Slay's done for most of his career. He's just followed the number one guy, going with him wherever he goes, more or less, and then he's done pretty good when he's had to. Obviously, he has 19 receptions over the course of his career. Has been like I said, very good in coverage over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I should say, I forget exactly. There were some stats. So this is tweeted from Tim McManus, who's a Eagles beat reporter. Since 2017, 36 DBs have seen at least 200 targets. As a nearest defender, only Marlon Humphrey and Stephon Gilmore have allowed a lower completion percentage, I should say, than Darius Slay, per Next Gen Stats. He's played great against Amari Cooper, which is obviously important because Amari Cooper has lit up the Eagles basically every time he's played them since he's become a member of the Cowboys. I know his passer rating allowed is pretty low too. He's been 3. Pro Bowls or whatever, but he's been in 3 consecutive Pro Bowls. What else? So yeah, just overall his stats since 2017 have been pretty good, and obviously anything over what the Eagles had is going to be pretty good in comparison. But they finally have their guy. But the way that he left the lines was kind of weird because they were shopping him during the season. I know it was reported that he was trying to get he was definitely trying to get traded, but the Eagles were trying to get him around the trade deadline, and it just didn't work out. But now there are reports as to why he exactly wanted out, and apparently it was because him and Matt Patricia had some sort of a rift. Slay, this is according to ESPN Michael Rothstein, Slay, who again was traded on Thursday, said that him and Matt Patricia did not see eye to eye a lot. Apparently it stems from two separate instances. Two instances in 2018 before Patricia had coached his first game. One had Slay questioning what Patricia thought of him as a player, and the other led him to lose respect for Patricia as a person. Slay said the first was a one-on-one meeting with Patricia after Slay had returned from working out with Richard Sherman, Aqib Talib, and Xavier Rose, he said. Slay had just come off his first Pro Bowl appearance and an All-Pro nod after leading the NFL with 8 interceptions. In the meeting, Slay Patricia told him he wasn't elite. Apparently that confused him, which, I mean, is fair. He just was an All-Pro, just had 8 interceptions. And he said that, and Slay said that told me right there he didn't have no respect for me. He told me I was a good player, but then to tell me what I'm not. So I said, okay, I just took that on the chin and said, okay, that's cool. Then I bounced back to 2 back-to-back Pro Bowlers on him. Let me know how elite I was. The incident that bothered Slay more, he said, happened later during a team meeting after a training camp practice that led them to never see eye to eye. From then on, a player whom Slay declined to name caught a couple of passes on him. After practice, Slay posted a picture on social media about him and the receiver at the start of the meeting later that night. Patricia used a social media photo at the start of the meeting along with the small highlight tape of said player on the board before addressing Slay. Slay said Richard put the picture on the team board with Patricia essentially telling him to stop kissing up to another player, although the coach used a more profane analogy. And apparently he said that's when all his respect went out the door for him. And that's the thing about situations like this is that, I mean, this isn't just in football, but this is just in life. Like, whenever somebody loses your respect, it's kind of hard to ever get it back. And that's always going to be an issue. And if that was the case here, then it was only a matter of time before he was going to leave the Lions. He was never going to stay there forever. I mean, that's probably obvious anyway. But once you lose respect for a person, it's just hard for you to ever agree with anything they do ever again. And that's unfortunate aspect of this. Just because, again, it seemed like it was only a matter of time. And obviously, in the article, there are players that kind of corroborate that story. And also, if you look at the Lions trading Quandre Diggs, their starting safety, mid-season for really no apparent reason, you can kind of see that maybe there was some underlying issues, not just with Slay, but maybe with some other team, maybe with some other members of the Lions team. So, hey, it's one of those things. I don't know. It's a lot of the Belichick disciples, if you will, try to I don't want to say put on the front because I don't know these guys in person, but try to come off, maybe they come off a little too strong, and obviously that leads to lack of success on the field, and then obviously people are not really liking them off the field. I mean, you look at what happened with DeAndre Hopkins and Bill O'Brien, the story Michael Irvin told, though DeAndre Hopkins refuted it on Twitter, but long story short, just they had their own issues, which is a part of the reason why he ended up getting dealt. And it's just the same seemed like a similar situation between Slay and Patricia, where just like it was a situation where it's never going to get fixed. So it was like, all right, you kind of have to make a decision, and the decision they made was to get rid of the player as opposed to getting rid of the coach. So now Slay is a member of the Eagles, and Eagles fans out there and Eagles players out there are very happy. Presumably, I think guys like Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Hargrave, Derek Barnett, those kind of guys, just because, again, pass rush coverage kind of go hand in hand. And if you have a guy that's locking down the number one, making the quarterback hold the ball, that'll allow the pass rush to get home more, just because then the quarterback, again, will be spending more time in the pocket, and then allows the defensive guys more time to get after him. And then, like I said, vice versa. If the quarterback is going to have to get the ball out of his hands quick, that can allow the guys to play up, press the receivers, kind of maybe jump some routes a little, just so you know the ball is coming out quick because you know the pass rush is going to get there. So again, they work hand in hand, and they've had a pretty good pass rush without a good corner, and obviously now they have a legitimate number one, arguably top 5 corner in the league. So we'll see how much better that makes the Eagles' defense. But just on paper, they're leaps and bounds better just because they haven't had anyone close to this caliber in that secondary, at least from a corner standpoint, because they had Malcolm Jenkins, who's a very good safety, but from a corner standpoint, in quite a while. So we'll see how much that improves the Eagles team. But yeah, so after this next break, we're going to come back, and the Bears have what they believe is their new quarterback. It's not who I thought it would be. But also, I'm not that surprised about who they chose. So we'll talk about that. Talk about how it kind of came about. And then also just what's left out there for some other quarterbacks that are still potentially on the market. So we'll talk about all that stuff right after the break. So stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, I thought and believed that the Bears should trade for Cam Newton. They thought otherwise, which, more power to them. But they found a quarterback that they believe can get them back to where they want to be at. And that quarterback is none other than Nick Foles, formerly of, obviously, the Eagles, but more recently, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just signed a big money deal, 4-year, I think it was $88 million before, obviously, well, in free agency last offseason, not before anything, but in free agency last offseason. And now he's on the move only 1 year after that contract was signed. Replaced by, replaced, beat out, however you want to word it, by Gardner Minshew, I guess you could say, just because they decided to choose him over Nick Foles, who, again, they paid big money to, but it is what it is. And obviously, in many scenarios, if you have two guys that are pretty close, you obviously want to, in theory, go for the younger, cheaper guy. So I understand why, and also, just based on kind of the moves and decisions they made recently, trading Calais Campbell, trading A.J. Boye, possibly trading Yannick Ngakoue. They did pay Joe Schobert, I believe. Yeah, Joe Schobert, big money, a linebacker. So, again, they're kind of in a weird situation, but in many people's eyes, they're kind of in a rebuilding mode. So, again, going with a younger quarterback as opposed to Nick Foles, who's 31, makes a lot of sense. But then on the flip side of things, from the Bears' standpoint, it also makes sense for them to trade for Nick Foles just because the familiarity. I think I said it right that time. Whatever. That he has with the Bears coaching staff and their system. So, obviously the head coach Matt Nagy was, he was with. I know he started off with the Eagles. I believe he was with they overlapped probably at least 1 year, maybe his rookie season. And then also he was with the Chiefs when Nick Foles was there for a season. And then their quarterback coach, Don DeFilippo, was obviously with him with both the Eagles and the Jaguars. So the connection makes a lot of sense in that regard. Just because, again, a lot of these, from the standpoint of a lot of these like trades and stuff, a lot of people trade for guys that they either know from, whether it's they know personally just because maybe they coached them or they scouted them or whatever in the past. They have connection to the coaching staff, whether like their old position coach or an old defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator or whatever is maybe a part of the staff now, or somebody in the front office had scouted him or maybe signed him before or drafted him before, and then obviously they're with a new team and they bring him along. So a lot of this is just relationships, just like a lot of things are. They're not that much different than networking in the real world. The people you know can, in theory, help you get other positions. And that's maybe something that happened with Nick Foles in this case. Because, again, he has connections to the Bears coaching staff. So they're like, all right, at least we, instead of going for a guy like maybe like a Cam or an Andy Dalton or like a Jameis, or they weren't going to go for Jameis, but just like hypothetically, maybe even a Teddy Bridgewater, who I think they had interest in, but just obviously didn't work out. They go with the guy that at least knows the system, knows how to run it, and again, he has connection to the coaching staff, so they know how to coach him. He knows their coaching style, stuff like that, and that may ease the transition. But yes, I think they gave up, a 4th round pick, I believe? This article doesn't say. But I believe it was a 4th round pick, and obviously he had to restructure his deal a little bit because, I mean, there's no way they're trading for all that money. But yeah, so he had 3 years. Let me look up what it's at now, because after it had to be restructured, his contract may be a little bit different than the original 4 for 88. So next year his cap number will be, if this will load, which it doesn't seem like it will, which is only mildly annoying. So next year his cap number is he has a base salary of only $15 million. Then only a cap of only $15 million, then it goes up to 20 over the next 2 years, but they could potentially get out of it with no dead cap. If things don't work out this season, they could just like cut him, or I guess probably not trade him, but just cut him, and then you can wash your hands of it. If it doesn't work out, so then it's basically just like a 1 year prove it deal, and then obviously if they want to keep him past that, they can. But that definitely worked out from the Bears standpoint, just because in theory, if things don't go right, then they can just go out. They're probably not going to extend the 5th year option to Mitch, and then they can just go out and get rid of Nick Foles and then start fresh at quarterback again the next offseason, which would be kind of annoying. But hey, at least you have Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields coming out, with obviously potentially other guys as well. But those are just the 2 names right now. Somebody could easily Joe Burrow. Well, maybe not Joe Burrow, because I don't know if anybody's going to overtake Trevor Lawrence. He's just been like the prized possession since he was in high school. So that wouldn't be that shocking. But yeah, so again, there could be a Joe Burrow type where a guy comes out of nowhere. Let me just say, not maybe be the number 1 overall pick, but there's a quarterback and not many people are talking about as potentially a top draft pick that could come out of nowhere and surprise some people. But yeah, so Nick Foles in comparison with good old Mitchell Trubisky. So the one thing about Nick Foles that is kind of going to be the issue here is, last year is what it is. He only played in 4 games. Obviously, they didn't win any of those games, but only played in 4. That's not really a big enough sample size to to exaggerate one way or the other. But that's kind of the thing with Foles, is that the most games he's ever started in a season is 11, and that was with the Rams, and he was sorry that year. Even in the 27-2 season that he had in 2013, where he made the Pro Bowl and Pro Bowl MVP and all that stuff, made the playoffs, he only started 10 games. That's kind of the thing with him, is I know there was a report, or I think something, or one of the Bears beat reporters said this to try to obviously try to spin things on why you did or didn't go after certain people. But they said they cited Cam Newton's health concerns as the reason why they didn't want to trade for him, even though it sounds like he could very well be a free agent soon. And that's the thing with Nick Foles. He's another guy who, when he's been the unquestioned starter, he hasn't really been able to stay healthy. Now, obviously, fluke injury, broke his clavicle this year. Was a backup the last couple of years in Philly. St. Louis, he got benched. The next season after the Pro Bowl, 27-2 season with the Eagles, I forget exactly what injury he had, but he only started 8 games. Might have been ribs or something. But yeah, he's just never been a consistent starter to where you can come out there, you're going to get 16 games out of him year after year after year, which is why he's been on this is 1, 2, 3, 4, his 5th team, And technically, well, not technically, but he's had 2 different stints with the Eagles. So, again, that only counts as one team. But he's had 2 different stints there. He's never been with the team for more than 3 seasons. Just because, again, that's kind of the way. He's not the only one. That's kind of how the careers of some of these guys go. But just because he's not a reliable starter at this point. He's a guy that has proven to be best in relief duty, coming in when your quarterback's injured. But as the unquestioned starter, he's never really been able to have that same level of success. Now, at his best, obviously, he's won a Super Bowl, outdueled Tom Brady, dismantled a great Vikings defense in an NFC Championship game, though at home. He's won, 4 playoff games in his career? Yeah, because then the 3 and then the 1 against the Bears, funny enough. That's the last game he won. It was against the Bears in the playoffs in 2018 in the wild card round, double doink game. But yeah, so it's just like, obviously at his best, is he better than Mitch? Yes. But, unfortunately, that's not really that high of a bar to pass. So you just kind of hope that he can be serviceable. Because the Bears don't need that much. Their defense is solid. See what they do at corner outside of, opposite Kyle Fuller. And then, obviously, who they decide to bring back at safety to pair with Eddie Jackson. But the defensive front 7, solid. 3 defensive linemen. They just obviously, like I said, they added Robert Quinn, brought back Daniel Trevathan and then Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman. Like they're good. From a defensive front standpoint, like I said, they may need to fill up a hole or 2 in the secondary. But their defense is solid. Again, they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. They just need to get decent quarterback play. Because again, they go 7-9, 8-8 this year with a mix of Chase Daniel and Mitch Trubisky. And Mitch wasn't even that good this year. He went 8-7 this year. Threw 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a little over 3,000 yards, a 63 completion percentage, 6.1 yards per attempt, a passer rating of 83. The number's not that great. So, again, if they get a little bit better quarterback play, they win 10 games easy. And I think that's kind of what they're banking on, is that Foles can at least give them a little bit above. Like I said, he's not the MVP ceiling that a Cam Newton would have been, but at his best, not even at his best, but just regularly, he's above that level. At least when he's been able to be healthy and play, because obviously that's been the biggest bugaboo for him. So that's kind of where the Bears are at. So just it makes sense to why they would move on from Mitch, because again, you kind of don't, in a season where it's kind of make or break for both Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, the GM. I don't know if Mitch is the guy I want to hang my hat on, even though, again, Ryan Pace drafted him, traded up for him. So he liked him. But again, maybe he's willing to admit his mistake. And which is, I always commend GMs for doing that, because a lot of people hold on to people too long because they don't want to be wrong. Then obviously it hurts their team. But the Bears have decided, hey, we made a mistake here. We're going to move on. We're going to do something else. So cool, that works. You just got to hope that this is the right move. That's all. You got to hope it's the right move. Because, again, they don't need a lot from the quarterback position. They need, average to above average quarterback play, and they will get into the playoffs. Potentially. Obviously, that's assuming everything on the defense goes right. But if that happens, then, again, you get above average quarterback play, then they're solid. So, we'll see what happens there. But, yes, then that just leaves Cam, who it sounds like could very well be a free agent very soon, because it doesn't seem like the people... again, when you can't really test to see how healthy he is, it's hard for me to agree to trade for him at this point. This was, again, he had the foot, had the shoulder. You want to be able to get your doctors in to check him out. And with the coronavirus stuff, you can't really have that with the close quarters and social distancing and all that stuff. So you're not going to be able to do that for months. And I'm not trading for a guy if I can't know that he's healthy for months. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. Because then if he's not, then you have to veto the trade, or it'd just be a whole big thing. So I think the Panthers might just end up having to cut him, and then he can go wherever. But then at that point, it's where is he going to go? It seems like the Chargers are solid. Where? The Patriots, maybe? I know the Redskins, Washington said that they were potentially looking at Jameis to compete with Hassan, which is weird, but whatever. There's not really that many spots left now with the Bears taking up. There's not really that many spots for quarterbacks left. So where is he going to? He's not going to go and want to be a backup somewhere, I would think, because you can't prove you're healthy as the backup. You're not going to play. So I don't know. Cam's in a weird spot, and the fans are kind of in a weird spot because it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to trade him, but they basically can't have him on the team because they've all but said that they're done with him. So weird scenario. We'll see what happens with him. It's just that's a weird chain of events for a guy who was an MVP not that long ago. But hey, we will see how that goes. So yeah, when we come back here, we're going to give it's not daily, but just like our normal update of the guys around the sports world who now have corona because the coronavirus has made its way into the NFL world and obviously has continued to grow within NBA circles. So we'll talk about all the different teams affected, all the different people affected, and how, again, it's just further reminder that we are a ways away from sports returning as a whole. So we'll get to all that stuff right after the break, so stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
We are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Podcast Network. So as I said, the coronavirus has now officially made its way into the NFL. And it has done that through a coach and not a player, though, because obviously they're not playing games. So I'm not going to say obviously, because again, you can just get it doing anything, really. So any player could have gotten it, though it hasn't happened yet. And again, it's bound to happen because again, anybody can get it. It's not like it's just regular people, just celebrities can get it, or athletes. Anybody can get it. But yeah, the person that has now tested positive for COVID-19 is New Orleans Saints coach Sean Payton. Payton, 56. This is according to Adam Schefter. This is from an article from Adam Schefter, not according to Adam Schefter, but from an article. Payton, 56, is the first person in the NFL world known to test positive for the virus. That doesn't mean other people might not have it, but obviously a lot of guys, and we'll talk about that in a second, but a lot of guys, especially in the NBA, have said they don't feel any symptoms, so they wouldn't know. The only reason why they got tested is because they knew they'd played a team with somebody that had it. So that's obviously not happening in the NFL because they're not playing any games. So there's this possibility there's guys in the NFL that walk around with it right now. I think it was DeAndre Hopkins who was with KD, or was pictured with KD at like a game, and I believe it was when the Nets played at LA. So there's a chance he has it because obviously we know KD is one of the 4 Nets players that tested positive for COVID-19. So we'll see if any news comes out of that. But Payton said he didn't feel well this past Sunday, took the test Monday, and received the results Thursday afternoon. Payton is resting at home, fatigued, but said he is part of the 20% of cases that have no fever or cough. Well, and no cough, not or. He will self-quarantine in his home through the weekend, and he said he's upbeat and optimistic to make a full recovery. He posted a picture of himself with his dog on Twitter earlier Thursday. Payton said he came forward with the diagnosis because he wants all people to heed the warnings of government officials, stay inside and behave responsibly. This is not just about social distancing. It's shutting down here for a week to 2 weeks. If people understand the curve and understand the bump, we can easily work together as a country to reduce it. Take a minute to understand what the experts are saying. It is not complicated to do what they are asking us. Just that type of small investment by every one of us will have a dramatic impact. I was fortunate to be in the minority without the serious side effects that some have. I'm lucky younger people feel like they can handle this, but they can be a carrier to someone who can't handle it, so we all need to do our part. It's important for every one of us to do our part. And not funny enough, but just the reason why this wasn't necessarily surprising to me is because Louisiana has been one of the most infected states. I mean, maybe not as bad as California, who basically is all but, I guess what the governor issued, what was it, I think it was just like a stay in place, basically just like don't leave your house unless you absolutely have to. And that was the governor of California who did that, which again, California, especially San Francisco, has been a hotbed for this stuff. Yes, the governor issued, this from Adam Schefter, California's governor issued a statewide stay-at-home order to residents there due to the coronavirus pandemic, telling them only leave their house when necessary. So, I mean, that's basically what people are doing now anyways, but I guess technically, like in different states, like I know, like maybe you have a curfew, so you can't leave your house past 8, but there's no one stopping you from leaving your house to do anything really. Before then, though, obviously most things are shut down, so you're not really leaving your house for anything other than to go to the store, or maybe like go for a walk or whatever. But now, California's literally like, don't leave your house unless you're going to a doctor or like going to buy groceries or something. Like anything else, like don't do it. Which again is because California is definitely one of the most highly infected states. So it makes sense to why they can do this. Well, I know people are saying that somebody like a state like California, or not obviously California state, New York might have to do this because obviously their numbers are growing by the day as more and more people get tested. But it just obviously it's a reminder that we should all be wary of this because again it can affect any one of us. It's not strictly an old person or a young person or whatever thing. I think a lot of in Italy and even in South Korea, and then I think even here, like the numbers, a lot of young people are getting it. Even maybe not a lot of young people are like have the most extreme symptoms or are necessarily like dying from it, but a lot of them it's not like young people are immune to it. They can still get it, which I think is the biggest issue right now. Is a lot of young people are acting as if they can't get it just because they most likely will survive from it. Those are two completely different things. You can get it, like I mean, just like you can get almost any disease or virus or infection or whatever, and most of them you will survive from. But this is a different scenario because obviously it's a new thing and it's a big thing. And obviously it can affect people outside of yourself. Because I know there's a story of a guy. This was on Twitter again, so take it with a grain of salt. But there's a story of a guy on Twitter who had it, and then when he went to the doctor, found out he also had like leukemia to go along with it, and he would just like walk around every day, just didn't know at all. Because again, I guess he felt fine, so he didn't feel the need to get checked. And then now, not only did he find out he had the coronavirus, but also he found out he had cancer. So that's what I'm saying. That it can affect you in that way. You may not think you have anything. When you go to the doctor, you find out you're worse off than you thought, just separate from the coronavirus. And that's like I'm saying. That's kind of the thing that young people are dealing with, is that they assume that I'm healthy, I'm in good shape, I should be fine, and you probably will be fine even if you catch it. But there's other people that look fine that may not be fine if they catch it. So that's obviously why social distancing and all that stuff is important. And that's why a lot of these athletes are preaching it, because again, a lot of these guys are ones that can get the test just because. And I know I made the point of that on the last episode with the Nets about how like a lot of players could get the test, but then it was kind of brought to my attention, and it's a good point, that generally speaking, rich people have things more easily accessible to them than the average person does. So this should obviously be no different. Obviously, it's unfortunate that the average person can't get tested because they may not have the quote-unquote symptoms. But again, a lot of these guys are only getting tested because they've been in contact with someone, potentially been in contact with someone that has it. And, I mean, that's one of the... I mean, again, that doesn't mean that every regular person that has had contact with someone is getting tested. But that's usually one of the keys, is that you have to have really bad symptoms or you have to directly come in contact with someone that's tested positive. So that's obviously why a lot of the NBA players and stuff can or have been able to get access to the test more easily than the average American can. But again, to kind of backtrack from my point from the last episode, that shouldn't be that shocking, and it's not that surprising. And again, that's just the way this society and this country works. Is things are more easily accessible for rich people. That's kind of why the people want to be rich, is because when you have money, you can do a lot more, you can get a lot more. So this is obviously no different. But it is what it is, unfortunate. But yeah, so it's in the NFL, and obviously it's growing within the NBA circles as well. As now, I know it was 2 guys, I believe. It's 2 guys from the Lakers have now tested positive. I believe it's only 2. Yeah, so 2 Lakers test positive. Marcus Smart from the Celtics have tested positive. Members, they didn't announce who, but it's 3 members of the Sixers organization has tested positive. And then the Nuggets have confirmed 1 positive test as well. It's still kind of surprising in all this then the Thunder don't have anyone, but then in fairness, with that, Rudy Gobert apparently wasn't at the arena at the time of the game. So then they didn't come in contact with him. The only other person that has it was Mitchell. And I guess if they didn't really cross paths with him, then it makes sense to why they wouldn't have it. But that just is kind of interesting, because that game, the Jazz Thunder, was the one that kind of set off the shockwaves around this country, not around the world, because it was already big around the world, but around the country in terms of heightened awareness for this stuff. And then also they're one of the teams where everybody came back negative, at least at that point. That doesn't mean that they can't get it later on, but at this point right now, when they tested everybody, they're negative. So yeah, like I said, just further goes to show that it was important. And crazy that it's only been a full week since, yesterday, Wednesday. Oh, yesterday for me, but Wednesday a couple days ago for you guys when you hear this. But it's crazy that it's only really been like a week since like everything basically shut down, because it feels like it's been a lot longer than that. Maybe that's just because I didn't realize how much I watch sports or pay attention to sports regularly, because obviously with them being no more and really just being free agency. So thank goodness they didn't push free agency back, because I really don't know what we would have done without that. At least that's given us a lot of storylines and stuff to talk about throughout the week. Well, without that, we would have been a mess. But yeah, so then that's kind of been the thing, is that it's been a week since that stuff kind of came out, and the whole sports world shut down. But again, it feels like so much longer. Feels like so much longer. A week, I mean, the fact it's only been a week, and then that we're ways away to go before anything starts back up. Like, best case scenario, stuff starts back up. Like, well, again, if we went South Korea route and we're really, really super aggressive with this, we could be back in like a month. That's not going to happen, because again, people don't like being told what to do, so they're not going to listen to that. So, like, best case scenario, we're looking for like, at least sports wise, maybe like regular life might be back sooner, depending on what state you're in and how bad the cases are in your state. But sports-wise, probably looking at like mid-May, June at the earliest, because then you got to get people back in shape and all that stuff. So it's going to take, I don't see any league starting to make up until before then, which again is unfortunate for us. But as they've all tried to caution us, be mindful that anybody can get it. No one's immune until they come up with like a vaccine and stuff. And then even then, there's people that don't believe in vaccines, so you still never know 100% if you're immune to it or not. But yeah, so then like I said, do the normal, wash your hands, don't leave the house unless you have to. If you're sick, isolate yourself. And not even just from like isolate yourself within your house. Like, if you're around other people, isolate yourself from them too, because that's the big thing that I've been reading a lot into this. That's the big thing that China did, was that anybody had a fever or symptoms or whatever, they just like took them and brought them to like a hospital, or a fever hotel, I think is one of the things that they called it, where they were away from all the healthy people, which was the smart thing to do, because obviously, even if you isolate yourself from the outside world, if there's still people around your house that you're around, they can still get it from you in that way, then they can pass it on. That's kind of how it can continue to spread. So, if you do have it or do have any symptoms or just feel sick at all, just isolate yourself even within your own house from other people. And that way, that'll also help flatten the curve. Is the term we're using now. But that'll help flatten the curve because, again, if you're at home but you're around other people, they can catch it and then go out and then pass it along. So, like I said, the sooner we all accept that this is what we're going to have to do, the better off we'll be, because then the sooner it'll be gone. So, hopefully, we can all get on the same page with that very, very soon. But yeah, so after the break, we're going to talk about Adam Silver had a little sit down last night, and he brought up some ideas of how to kind of pass this time, in which, like, obviously we're without sports. Brought up some ideas, and we're going to talk about one of the ideas that he had, and why I don't think it makes any sense or it really is that safe at this moment. Maybe in a month or two, it may be different, but at this moment, I don't think there's any chance this happens. So we'll talk about that right after the break. So stay tuned.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So as I said, Adam Silver had an interview on SportsCenter with ESPN's Rachel Nichols on Wednesday night that addressed many things. One of the things that he talked about was that he said he wasn't sure what the NBA schedule will look like if play resumes this season at all, and isn't ready to think the league will have to cancel the season. Obviously, that's wishful thinking, because again, that's assuming everybody in the country will do their best to make sure that we flatten the curve, and then that this stuff doesn't get bad, and then obviously we can be able to handle it more easily. But yes, that's wishful thinking at this moment, because you would like to think that by June, July, you could be back, and then obviously they could play their games, and then playing the regular season just doesn't seem to make any sort of sense at all, because like, why play an extra month after having all this time off? Just go right to the playoffs, get it over with, personally. But again, we'll see what they decide. But yeah, so then that's what I would do. And then, so yeah, like I said, that's what I would do. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So that was one of the things he discussed. He also said that in the immediate, Silver said that he and the league's 30 teams are weighing several scenarios for when and how the NBA can resume play whenever that is able to. He talked about what are the conditions. It's all from an ESPN link recap article of their interview. But they said, what are the conditions we need for the league to restart? I would say I'm looking at three different things. Silver told Nichols, one is, when can we restart and operate as we've known it with 19,000 fans in the building? Option two is, should we consider restarting without fans, and what would that mean? Because presumably if we had a group of players and staff around them, you could test them and follow some sort of protocol. Doctors and health officials may say it's safe to play. The third option that they were looking at was the impact of the national psyche of having no sports program on television, which obviously people like myself not exactly thrilled about. And one of the things we've been talking about are their conditions in which a group of players could compete. Maybe it's for a giant fundraising or just a collective good, or just the collective good of the people, where you take a subset of players and is there a protocol where they can be tested and quarantined and isolated in some way, and they can compete against one another? Because people are stuck at home, and I think they need a diversion. They need to be entertained. Which, again, Adam Silver, greatly appreciate. But we'll get to that in a moment, but that's the diversion fundraiser game. Nope, not worth it. in my opinion. Not worth it. But like I said, we'll get to that in a second. Silver said that he estimates the league employs as many as 55,000 people, including like obviously game day workers at the 29 NBA arenas, and that part of his thinking is how can we restart the economy? What role can the NBA play? Because obviously, as you know, a lot of people are either working from home, not working at all because their jobs are closed down, or they're potentially even out of a job just because, like I said, the jobs are closed down. So it's like, we're not going to pay you guys to do nothing. Well, again, that's how not every company's like that. Some people are giving their people paid sick leave or whatever you want to call it due to the coronavirus, because obviously it's not their fault that the companies had to shut down. That's obviously what's happening, and certain companies are handling this better. No, I don't want to say better than others, but handling it differently than others, you could say. So, I know me personally, I've been working from home since last week. I'm going to be working from home through at least next week, probably longer than that, because I live in Jersey, work in New York. New York's probably going to go on lockdown soon, which means who knows when people will be able to go outside. So I don't see myself being back in an office building until at least May or June, personally. But we'll see how that goes. So yeah, I have to worry about that. But yes, then that's the thing. Is that they're trying to figure out what ways can, because obviously we've already talked about like different sports teams and leagues or whatever pledging to pay some of their arena or stadium workers due to the fact that they're out of a job through no fault of their own. But this is the way a lot of these guys make money, is how they pay their bills, how they are able to afford food for their children, stuff like that. And until, I guess the government's talked about stepping in, giving people a couple $1,000 a month or whatever, which is great. Obviously, no one's going to complain about free money, but you could argue for some people that may not be enough to offset the cost of their like rent or their mortgage, because there hasn't been a nationwide like shutdown on rent or shutdown on mortgage payments or anything like that. Like different states, different cities are handling it differently. So some people have to pay rent, while other people they've stopped all rent and mortgage payments and stuff like that. Because again, nobody's working, so how do you expect them to be able to pay their money without dipping into their savings? And obviously, you have savings for a reason, but not everybody can afford to have that. And a lot of people around the country live paycheck to paycheck, so they need that money in order to pay off these bills. But obviously, they're not getting the paycheck because they're not working, so they're not able to pay off the bills. And then obviously, they still need to. Now their kids are home more. If they have kids, so they gotta buy more food for that. They gotta buy food for themselves just because they're at home more now. You gotta stock up on other random things because you never know when the stores will be out of stuff. It's a terrible situation to be in. So, like I said, I appreciate Adam Silver trying to do his part in order to trying to help accelerate the economy getting back, because obviously a lot of it's going to suffer. I believe I saw an article today where like normally California has like 2,000 unemployment claims like in a day or like in a week or whatever, and now they're up to like over 80,000 just because a lot of people are out of work. And obviously California's a highly populated state, so they're going to have bigger numbers than most places, but still 80,000 people that are applying for unemployment. The unemployment system can't support that, I don't think. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's never normally that many people, even just in one state at a time, applying for unemployment all at the same time. Like, that's a whole mess. So yeah, so again, appreciate the NBA trying to figure out how they can do their part to help jumpstart the economy again. So we'll see how that goes. Another thing, but yeah, so then that's that. Silver said some of the league's recent innovations, including the Elam ending at last month's All-Star game, obviously with the play at a 24 higher than the highest score, open up the possibility of doing different things with the schedule under the circumstances whenever they do resume games. Hopefully they resume games. He said, I'm optimistic by nature, and I want to believe that we're going to be able to salvage at least some portion of the season. I would say we have done new and creative things in the past. We experimented with the All-Star game, with a unique ending. We talked about playing tournaments for going into the playoffs. There are many other things we can do with the format. So, like I said, I appreciate Adam Silver at least being forward-thinking in terms of he's trying to be as on top of this as he can, trying to already think and plan for when this stuff is back to normal, which it may never be. I mean, sports may resume, but like in terms of normality in the country, that may not be reached in the way in which Silver hopes for. But the thing that he mentioned I want to talk about a little bit more was the charity or fundraiser tournament or whatever you want to have it, to create a diversion, which again, as a person who watches a lot of sports and misses watching live sports, I do appreciate it. I appreciate the foresight. I appreciate him trying to stay innovative, trying to think of what he can do for his loyal fans. But that's not safe. Let's not do that. And I understand you could test, you could only do it with, players that are healthy or have tested negative or what have you. That's the thing, is that there's not really, obviously there's steps you can take, but at any point a person that's tested negative can now become positive. It's not just because they test negative, that's it, they're good. There's still a chance that they could become positive down the line, because you never know who they may run into, what they may touch, where they may go, stuff like that. So, even though a person, if you got people that tested positive right now and have them put together, all right, that doesn't mean that them traveling to wherever, them interacting with people in that arena or that city or what have you, may not lead to them now being a positive case for the coronavirus. Then obviously that leads to a bunch of other things. So now a bunch of people that we thought were healthy are now no longer healthy, and that's just a whole big thing. You don't have to deal with that personally. So I wouldn't want to risk that if I were Silver. Plus, also you're risking injury, because at the end of the day, I understand the point, just to give fans something, but at the same time, you also don't want to risk these guys getting hurt enough to pick up games, because again, a lot of these guys can't. Now they basically closed down all the facilities, so the guys can't go into their team facilities and work out, or team practice facilities. They can work out, I guess, at home or whatever, but not everybody has a home gym. So now we're talking about maybe going to a park or something, but then again, I don't know if all parks are shut down across the country, but I imagine they will be soon, if they're not already. So now everybody has the access or the ability to work out at their home. And now again, you're risking guys that haven't played not a real game, but just a game where they've run up and down the court, they're doing basketball moves like that in a couple weeks. Now you're risking people getting hurt, and then now the playoffs that you're hoping to be able to play are even more shot, because now you have people that could be taking this time to get healthy, if and when the league does start back up again. Now they could potentially get hurt, and then now it's just a big thing. And then if one person gets hurt, you can't ever do this again. So there's too much risk for a very minimal reward, in my opinion, with something like that. Obviously, again, Adam Silver seems to be a guy that's full of ideas, so this not going to be. I imagine it's not his only idea. He says other things he's thinking of, but I'm just saying personally, it doesn't seem worth the risk to me. There are better things, I think. Not better things. I just think at this point, wait it out. Hope that the American people are smart enough and are diligent enough to do their part to help flatten the curve. Then hopefully we can be back up and running sooner than later. Because again, obviously it's not going to happen that soon, but hopefully it can happen sooner rather than later. So that's what I would be worried about if I were Adam Silver. Just because, like I said, it's not trying to create something or do something new so that people have something to watch. While great in theory, doesn't seem that worthwhile to me. Again, that's just me. I'm only one person. Maybe other people will like that idea, because again, we're without any live sports, so a lot of people just want something, which I understand, but I just don't feel like it's worthwhile in terms of just the the risk compared to the reward. Because again, it's only just one game. It's not like you're doing a whole tournament, like a one-off game. While cool, is ever going to tie the... obviously most people would be happy to watch it, but again, it's not like you can start a whole league back up. That's really what we're missing. We're just missing the consistency. We're not missing the one-off, because we can watch. There's replays of stuff. There's ways to watch other things, which we'll talk about in the next segment, to watch old games and stuff. So that's cool, but we're missing the consistency of night after night after night. We know, all right, there's games on here. I can go here, watch this game. I can go here, watch that game, stuff like that. That's what we're missing right now. We're not missing... If this came out for one game, it'd be cool. Within 2 days, you'd be like, oh, I've rewatched that game 4 times already just because there's nothing else to watch. So, again, appreciate the the thought, but I just don't think that kind of fundraiser stuff is worthwhile. Again, we'll see what happens, but as of this moment right now, I don't think it's worthwhile. Though I will willingly admit that I will be glued to my TV if they did play one. So you can take you can take that as you will. But after this last, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what the leagues are actually doing in the in between time, to help us get over the lack of sports in our lives. So yeah, we'll talk about that, the different things they're doing, and how I appreciate all those things, and some of the things that I'll be tuning in to watch right after this break. So stay tuned.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
We are back here once again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I said, there are things that those sports leagues are doing to help keep us, or quench our thirst, if you will, for sports. And I guess we'll talk about the NBA side of things first. But the NBA is providing a free preview during this hiatus up until April 22nd of the NBA League Pass, complete with every game from 2018, 2019, and 2019-2020 seasons, along with an archive of classics. So basically for free, you can sign up for it, and over the next month, you're more than welcome to watch like any of the games, like I said, from this season, last season, and then obviously some archive classic games, and then I think you can also watch like full or shortened, like condensed games in case you don't want to watch the whole game, you just want to get like the gist of what happens. You can do that there. So that's one thing that they're doing, and that's one thing I haven't signed up for it yet. I don't normally have League Pass, at least not this year. I just didn't sign up for it, but it's definitely something that if I were you and you're a sports fan, a basketball fan out there, and you don't normally have League Pass, you live in the state or city where your favorite team plays, so you don't really need it, because that's really the only reason why you need something like that, or League Pass or NFL Game Pass, which we'll talk about in a second, is if you're out of market where you live somewhere which is different than the team you want to watch. So then it's just like, yeah, if you haven't signed up, I would at least do it for the month, just so you can kind of get the gist of what it's like, A, and then B, also, again, it's give you something to, like I say, quench that thirst over this next month. Obviously, we're not going to be without sports longer than that, but at least it's better than nothing. Let me just put it that way. It's better than nothing. So, I know ESPN put together a list of some games you'd want to watch from different teams. Now, these are over the last 2 seasons, because I guess you don't really know exactly what their archive would look like. But, so say if I'm... Who is it? Who could you say? Say you're a fan of the Lakers. You can rewatch the first, LeBron Zion matchup, or just, obviously there's a longer list of things to watch. Take that back. I'm trying to think. Let me scratch that and say what games I would want to watch if I could watch any of them. Because obviously I don't know what's on League Pass, but just if I could watch any games, I would probably rewatch. I think I'd rewatch. What was it? Game 6 of that Raptors Bucks Eastern Conference Finals. just because of that fourth quarter. I think it was mainly from Kawhi. But that fourth quarter, where you're just like, oh wow, the Raptors are going to win this, was kind of a surreal moment to watch live. Obviously not live like there, but like watch it live as it was happening. Also, I guess if you're on that kind of tip and you are happy to see the demise of the Warriors, you could watch. It was Game 6. You could watch Game 6 of the NBA Finals where they were obviously able to defeat the Warriors and win the championship. That's a cool moment. Also, I guess if you're a Sixers fan, do not rewatch the Kawhi buzzer beater against them in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Semis. Don't stay as far away from that as you can, because obviously that'll bring up a lot of PTSD and bad memories. What else? If you're say what other games I want to watch from the last couple of years? That's a really good question. That's kind of hard. Oh yeah, D Wade's buzzer beater I think that was against the Warriors too. Funny enough, last year we kind of where it was like that was a weird one because you're just like, how did the Heat beat the Warriors? But because they were at full strength at that point too, so it was just like a weird game to lose. But against Miami, people like to go out, have a good time in Miami, so it's not shocking. But yes, they won that one. D Wade hit the buzzer beater, kind of his last real big moment of his career. So I'd want to rewatch that. What other game? Oh wow, I forgot. Oh Lord, I forgot about that. I guess we'll take that back. If you are a Sixers fan, you can watch the Christmas Day game where they dismantled the Bucks, because that's probably the best it's been this season for them. Obviously, if you're looking, because again, you can only go back these last two seasons. Obviously, there's an archive of stuff, but I'd go back and watch that. Some other games, if I could rewatch just anything. I'm trying to think if I could just rewatch anything. What games would I want to go see? I want to go. Obviously, I'm not a Warriors fan. But I want to go rewatch Game 6 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, where Clay hit all those threes, basically saved the Warriors dynasty, and helped lead them to getting KD. Because I want to see how it happened again. Because still am a Thunder fan, so I remember watching it live. It was hard to believe, and I haven't really rewatched that game because it hurts too much. And I don't even really watching highlights from that game. It hurts too much. But I might have to rewatch it just because I need to see how this happened. How did they? Because they had the lead too in the fourth quarter, and they just folded. Russ and KD just took turns getting stripped or missing shots down the stretch. It was a disaster. Ruin. I was out because that was right around when I turned 21, so I was going out to celebrate turning 21. That ruined didn't ruin the whole night, but it obviously made me drink a lot more than I should have. Just try to get over that. So that wasn't fun. I want to rewatch that game. What are the games that I want to rewatch if I could just rewatch anything? Just stuff recently, obviously, not anything in the history of ever. But what are the games that I want to rewatch? If I could, again, more Thunder stuff, but go back and rewatch Game 2 of their NBA Finals series against the Heat. Because I still contend that LeBron fouled KD on that pull-up jumper along the baseline that he missed. And had they given him the free throws, the Heat potentially lose that game. And now they're down 0-2, and maybe the whole dynasty falls apart. And the careers and legacies of KD, Russ, Harden, and LeBron, Bosh, Wade are all different than they are now. So would love to see that. Make sure that I'm not crazy for thinking that was a foul. I guess I could go back and rewatch the LeBron, I guess earlier that playoffs, the LeBron game against the Celtics, where he just basically just was like, yeah, no, we're not losing. I think it was Game 6 in Boston. He's like, yeah, no, we're not losing the series. I'd probably go back and rewatch that. And rewatch a bunch of people's games in the Garden. I know that they were replaying Steph's his shining moment in the Garden, which kind of when I first remember him, or still remember him running down the court shimmying, and someone tried to give him a high five, and I think it might have been Iguodala, and he just zoned out. So I'd love to see that. But yeah, so these are just some of the things. I don't know exactly what the list of classics they have on there are, but again, any game from the last two seasons you can go back and rewatch. So rewatch the best moments from your favorite team, and then obviously you can go back and rewatch some classic games if you wish. So shout out to the League Pass for doing that. And the NFL has done a very similar thing with their Game Pass. So NFL Game Pass is now free. Yeah, NFL offers fans free access to NFL Game Passes from NFL.com starting today, which was March 18th, so that was Wednesday. Starting today, the NFL will offer complimentary access to NFL Game Pass, providing fans the opportunity to relive incredible games and moments from past seasons, including Tom Brady's multiple Super Bowl victories, Peyton Manning's single-season record of 55 touchdown passes as a Bronco in 2013, Odell's one-handed catch, and many more. A digital product available across all platforms and devices. And Game Pass offers an extensive library of football programming for fans. You can watch past regular season and postseason games, previous season award-winning NFL film series such as Hard Knocks and Football Life, Game Pass film sessions with league players and coaches. I think you can get all 22 stuff in there as well. And also starting today, NFL digital platforms will offer fans full game encores each day across NFL.com, NFL app, and NFL's official YouTube page. These encores will feature signature wins from all 32 teams, starting with obviously Mahomes and the Chiefs coming back to beat the Niners in Super Bowl 54. So, and this extends a little bit further than the NBA does. This is offered free until March 31st to fans in the United States and starting Thursday until July 31st to fans outside the U.S. and Canada. So, a full detail of this are game rewatch. You can watch any game from 2009, to 2019, including full game broadcasts, replays of games, commercial free in HD, includes preseason if you wanted to do that, playoffs, and Super Bowl matchups from the past 11 seasons, condensed 45-minute replays, access to the all-22 and high end zone angle from the coaches' footage. So if you didn't want to watch a game and wanted to watch like coaches' film, you can do that as well for free. Game Pass film sessions, and NFL players and coaches take Brian Baldinger and Ron Jaworski inside the film room and break down game-winning plays. And then you can watch all 2019 episodes of NFL Red Zone if you want to, and then obviously Hard Knocks, Mic'd Up, and A Football Life. So, and this is a little bit more. So, in those games, I'm trying to think what games I'd watch. I'd rewatch the not Saints. Well, I kind of do want to watch the Saints-Rams game again just because like the no pass interference thing is just kind of funny. Obviously, not being a Saints fan. If I'm a Saints fan, I would stay as far away from that game as I could. But more so I'd rewatch the Rams-Chiefs Monday night game from, 2018, I believe? Yeah, because that game was just nuts. All the points being scored. I mean, I rewatched most of the Super Bowls. Not this, even rewatched this past one, but basically not 53 because the Rams-Patriots one wasn't that good. But Eagles-Patriots, good. Obviously Falcons-Patriots, classic. Eagles-Patriots is a low-key classic too. People sleep on that one. But it was a good and entertaining game through and through. I guess most of the Patriots ones are, at least recently. Go back and watch. I don't know if I want to watch. I maybe watch Patriots Seahawks. I'm still shocked they didn't run the ball there, but it is what it is at this point. Can't really get mad at that anymore. So that's Super Bowl wise. I'll probably go back and watch those. Just regular. I'm trying to think what regular season games I go back and watch. I don't know. I rewatch most of Lamar Jackson's games from this year just because they're entertaining to watch. What else? Probably go back and watch that Giants-Panthers game from 2015, I believe, the MVP season, just because I remember seeing the meme of Cam Newton like nodding on the sideline after the Giants took the lead, just like, all right, okay, so what I have to go do? I have to go win the game, and he did. Now, so that was the Josh Norman Odell like. They didn't even fight, but they had multiple personal fouls against each other. It was a wild game, but also wildly entertaining. So rewatch that. I'm trying to think what other random games I'd want to watch. Oh, Saints 49ers from this past year. That game was crazy. Probably go rewatch that one. What else? Yeah, I mean, with this many options, there's almost too much stuff to choose from. But obviously, they're laid out for you enough. You can see the details for yourself if you Google them. But I must give a round of applause to the NBA and the NFL for giving fans access to this stuff. Because again, we need something. needs a strong word, but we would like to have something to help us get through these rough times. And obviously giving this stuff out for free for a month with the League Pass and 2 months for NFL Game Pass to be able to rewatch old games there's nothing more to say than other than thank you, honestly. Just like, I'm appreciative, and we should all be appreciative, because they didn't have to do this. Obviously, it made sense to do it, but they didn't have to do it necessarily. But I'm definitely grateful that they did. And then obviously, like I said, it gives you, now you can go back and watch. You can watch games as if it's a regular season. Obviously it's not the same thing as live. You kind of know the outcome of the game before it happens. That's kind of that's the whole part of sports that is entertaining, that you don't know how it's going to end. You think you may know, but you don't exactly know until obviously it plays out. There's no spoilers, no nothing. Like it happens, I guess, unless you don't catch the game live. But again, that's obviously with anything. But yeah, that just gives us access to watch things and act as if there's nothing has changed, which, again, I very much appreciate, because I am a person that likes to watch sports. I would definitely be taking advantage of these things over the next month, 2 months, and we can take advantage of them together. We can talk about different games you guys would want to rewatch. Maybe we can, I can rewatch some games, kind of just break them down again as if they just happened. Just, I don't know. I'll think of things to do along with that now that I have access to that, and because obviously that's a cool thing to have access to now, to be able to rewatch old games. That's not something I expected to be able to do, but now that I can do it, I might as well. There's no reason not to. I'm not really doing anything else with my time, so yeah, might as well use that to my advantage while I still can. So yeah, I will be taking advantage of that in the very, very near future. But that'll do it here for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys all for listening, as always, and want to remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. If you could, please, as well, write us a nice review. Give us a 5-star rating. It'd be appreciated. Obviously, helps us see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can discuss. And we can help each other get through this time, because hopefully sports will be back at some point, but it won't be soon. So we have to help each other out as we get through these very trying times. And again, I want to remind you guys to make sure you social distance. Don't go out of your house unless you absolutely have to. Help flatten the curve, wash your hands, clean off your surfaces regularly, do a lot of stuff. If you're sick, isolate yourself, get checked if you need to. Normal, like coughing to your elbow and onto your hands and stuff. Same with sneezing or whatever. All the normal health things that doctors and everybody have been saying over the last week or so. Just continue to do that, and hopefully this stuff will be gone sooner rather than later. But again, that'll do it here for me today. That has been my time. I have been Chris Blades. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.